second task that we're going to try to achieve is to reduce inflammation directly. The first one was how to stop irritating our back. And now, if we already have inflammation present, how do we reduce it? So, as we know, irritation creates inflammation, and inflammation in our body is a chemical process. So it has certain steps that it follows, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so on. And each of those steps requires energy to move to the final stage. And the energy that's used in our body is heat. And so heat is the energy that drives this chemical reaction forward. Now, because of the chemical nature of inflammation, there are a lot of medications that have been developed to help reduce that. And there's a huge class of medications called anti-inflammatories that do this. And each one of them addresses a specific step in the cascade of events that happens in inflammation. And for the most part, they work very well. And I am definitely an advocate of use of anti-inflammatory medication. Some people can't use anti-inflammatory medications. Either they have a problem with their stomach, or it bothers some other organ, or for other people it just doesn't help enough. Now, there are a lot of anti-inflammatory medications that are at the pharmacy, and some of them are over the counter. So once a pharmaceutical company has a medication for a certain amount of time, after that it goes to the over-the-counter market and it can be sold directly to the clients. So what was once Motrin in the pharmaceutical realm is now Advil or ibuprofen. There's also, I think, a Motrin brand. The same with a naproxen or a naproxen. It's also sold over the counter now as naproxen, I believe, is the generic name, and Aleve as the company name. So you can get very good anti-inflammatory medications at the grocery store if you can't get them from your physician or you don't have a physician. But because each of those drugs address a certain step along the way, they do have a limited effect. And so sometimes it's not enough and we need to add another anti-inflammatory agent to the picture. And the one that I'm suggesting is the use of cold therapy. So when we talk about heat as being the driving force for this inflammatory process, you can imagine that by cooling it off, it would slow down the chemical reaction and reduce the production of pain chemicals that comes with inflammation. So I do recommend cold therapy for my patients. And some of you may be saying, I don't like cold, or I've tried cold in the past and it hasn't helped. I would like to address some different things about cold. For one, it doesn't have to be freezing cold. So you can put an ice pack from the grocery store or drugstore into a pillowcase and put it on your lower back. You can strap it on, or you can just kind of shove it into the back of your waistband and sit there or walk around with it. You don't have to be still. If it's too cold, you can take a couple more layers of the pillowcase and lay it on top so that what you're feeling is more of a cool sensation. And try putting that extra layer cold pack on your back, and you may feel that it's more tolerable and you can handle it for at least a brief period of time. In my clinic, I always put a cold pack on my patients when I'm done working with them for the day, and I put a couple extra layers on to ask them how it feels, and I also give them an option of going with a single layer. And a lot of patients like to start with the extra layer. It makes them feel more comfortable, not as stressed. But eventually a lot of them really move to the single layer because the more cold, the more anti-inflammatory effect they get. I do recommend that they do it at home, and I recommend it for you as well. Now, there are some people who have conditions that make it not a good idea to use cold pack. So if you have a condition where cold is contraindicated, please ignore this section. don't put cold on if you have a condition that your doctor has warned or you have heard that it's not good for your body for some reason. So don't follow this direction if you're in that group. It's a fairly small group. Most people can use cold, and most people do find that they get relief. I do recommend using it regularly and not just when things are bad. So when we use it when things are bad, what happens is we allow our pain level to come up all the way, and then we try to bring it down. And what I think is a better idea is to, as our irritation and pain comes up during the day, to bring it down. And of course, as the heat comes back into the situation, it's going to come up again, and you can just bring it down again and continue doing that throughout the day. And eventually it starts to kind of slow down the inflammatory process and allows it to weaken. Now, if you've had pain for a long time, it may take a while to break this cycle because the inflammatory cycle has been going so long, the chemicals have been released so long, and it may be something that you have to work on for quite some time. There have been periods in my life when I've had a flare-up of a symptom, and I tend to get my symptoms at night, so I would put the ice pack on and just get into bed with the ice pack covered all the time on an area of my body. And during the night, if I turn over and I feel it, I just kind of toss it under the floor and put it back in the freezer in the morning rather than getting up. So you can use the cold pack in the bed as long as it's covered. You never want the plastic touching your skin. You can also use it when you're moving around the house. You could, like I said, put it into your pants or put a belt on of some kind and continue doing what you were doing. You can use it sitting down, you can use it lying down, but I do recommend that you use it. And again, it doesn't matter how cold it is, as long as it's cooler than you are, and your temperature is 98 degrees. So just find some degree of cool, put it onto your body. My recommendation is always 30 minutes. 30 minutes several times a day. So when I'm having a problem, I try to use a cold pack twice a day. If you have a significant pain problem, I would recommend putting it on 30 minutes every few hours, which turns out to be 4 to 6 times a day. And again, this is always up to you how much you use it. But I do believe that you will notice a difference. And over time, it can break down, like I said, the inflammatory cycle that's going on in your back. So try and find a flexible ice pack, grocery store, drugstore, a pillowcase that you're not using. If you're using it in sitting, always remember to use a small pillow behind your back to help maintain that neutral position, and use the ice pack for 30 minutes, a couple of times a day, and after a few days, see if you notice a difference.